welcome in. We're the Real Selection Committee. I'm Mike, this is Greg. And boy, we just finished up this crazy weekend where we had scuffles all over the place. Ohio State, Michigan game, what a great game it was, except for at the end where they had the big fight going on there. How do you think that game went?
Well, it was atrocious to watch. Both teams were pretty bad. There was a thing within the telecast saying that Michigan had 10 points off of 2 drives with a combined 5 yards. Yeah. That's got to be all-time worst ever. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's pretty much how the Buckeyes lost by mistakes. Not to take anything away from Michigan, but and as far as the fighting goes, come on, guys. If you got so much energy, use it in the game and defend your home field. Then the other team can't even think about planting a flag. And if you're the team that wins and you're at the other team's field, run up and down the side you're on with your flags. Make the other team know you won. You know, get in people's faces with class. Do it to where you can't have fights, because then now teams are going to be playing maybe without starters for either the playoffs or even your bowl games. Mm-hmm. So.
Right.
That's just classless.
Right. So another game that's going to cause a big shake-up in this top 12 teams is going to be the Miami game, losing to Syracuse. This is going to change a bunch of things. This is probably going to open a door for some teams.
Yeah, well, Miami should have won.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a bad loss for Miami. It probably locks them out and opens the door up, like you said, for teams like Alabama or Ole Miss. But we'll see what happens. Boy, Miami had it all, didn't they?
Yeah. And now, you know, Clemson's only hope, I think, of getting in is winning this ACC championship game, which they have an opportunity to do so. So right now, here we are. We're going to go over our top 25, see how our top 25 goes with the selection committee's top 25. So my list is going to be based on the rankings, you know. So I'm just going strictly off the rankings. I know yours is going to go off kind of the playoff format.
I do more of the playoff seedings with my rankings, so it shows up more when we get up into the top 4.
Right. So let's just go ahead and start then.
Okay, my number 25 team, I jostled around. There were 4 teams I kind of jostled around. 2 made it in, 2 didn't. My number 25 is Tulane. I think Tulane had everything to play for, and somehow they managed to lay a stinker against Memphis, which Memphis is a good team. They were 10-2 as well. So, but Tulane had an outside opportunity of getting into playoffs, and they blew it.
Right. My number 25 is Memphis after that big win. You know, that was a big win for them. I have them as my 25th team. Hey, they're 10-2. They're a good team.
Yeah. My number 24 is Memphis. And based on the strength of them beating Tulane, which was a good win for Memphis, because Memphis had nothing to play for other than a bowl. Mm-hmm. And Memphis still came in there and doused Tulane's chance of doing anything. Sure. So, you know, I put Memphis at number 24.
Yeah. My 24 team is going to be Army. They're still in the mix, although that Tulane kind of hurt. I think it hurt the ACC or AAC as far as getting a bid into this playoff format. But Army, nonetheless, 10-1. What a great season they had. I put them at 24.
My number 23 is the Running Rebels of UNLV. I think UNLV has had an outstanding season at 10-2. They have a outside chance, if they upset Boise State, of potentially getting into the playoffs. Not real good chance, but hey, the door is still open for them. So we'll see what they do.
Right. Yep. My 23 is going to be Syracuse. I mean, what a big win they had there. This is a scrappy team right here. They can beat you if you're not having your A game here. They beat Miami and knocked their hopes out as far as getting into those playoffs. But I have Syracuse at 23.
Mm-hmm. Number 22, I have Army. Great story this year, 10-1. I can't remember the last time they were 10-1. Mm-hmm. And like we've said, they've had a softer schedule, but a schedule they play every year and would go 5-7, 6-6. So let's give Army a lot of credit for being 10-1. They're in the championship game with Tulane. As we mentioned, Tulane losing kind of takes the luster off of that. But hey, or if Army could win that game and at least get the AAC championship, that'd be a real nice feather to put in that cap.
Right. My 22nd team's going to be Missouri. I mean, Missouri's 9-3, had a decent year, not as high as the expectations were coming into this season, but I have to put them at number 22.
21, I've got Syracuse for a lot of the reasons you spoke on. Syracuse earlier in the year looked like a team that might break out. They got blitzed by Pittsburgh, and that kind of put a nail in their coffin early. But they did play really well down the stretch. They could have let the season get away from them. They didn't. They were losing 21-0 to Miami, and they managed to come back and win.
Right.
So, hey, they deserve to be in this top 25.
Yeah, you're right. So my 21 is going to be the Fighting Illini. Illinois, they're 9-3, had a couple stumbles, but I think they, at the beginning of the season, looked like they could make it into these the playoffs. Yeah. They were a very solid team. I have them at my 21 spot.
Mm-hmm. My number 20 is Colorado. They went 9-3. This is a team that I thought would be lucky to get 6-6.
Right.
You know, I thought they were all talk. Mm-hmm. And they have come out and proved many of us wrong, both professional analysts and analysts like ourselves. Mm-hmm. And they've made us look a little foolish, but, you know, Colorado a couple weeks ago looked like the odds-on favorites to get in the Big 12 championship game. They kind of blew it last week. Mm-hmm. But, hey, you know, 9-3 is 9-3. Good season.
Right. They're my 20th team, too, Colorado. 9-3, like you said. I mean, they have exceeded expectations coming into this year. None of us probably had them at a 9-3 record. I mean, what a great season they had. I got to put them there. I mean, it's a good team.
Yeah. My number 19 is the Fighting Illini of Illinois. This is a team that kind of came out of nowhere as well. I don't know too many people. Don't know really where everybody had them ranked, but 9-3. They were looking really good early. Had a close loss to Penn State. The game against Oregon kind of changed their season a little bit, and then they lost to Minnesota, which kind of took them out of the playoffs and potentially being that fifth Big Ten team to sneak in there. But Illinois had a fine season. 9-3 is still good.
Yeah, my 19 is going to be UNLV. 10-2. They're in this Mountain West Championship game. You never know what could happen out of there. That opens the door a little bit for them to step in. But being at that low down in the rankings, it would be hard for them to make it into the playoffs. But you never know. If they win that game, they have an opportunity.
Dumber things have happened, for sure. Number 18, I got Brigham Young. Team I was high on all year. 10-2, they've still had a remarkable season. But, you know, a couple weeks back, they looked like the odds-on favorite to win this conference and potentially beat another undefeated team as well. It got away from them, but 10-2 still pretty good from a team that I doubt too many of us had very high.
Right. My 18's Clemson. Clemson 9-3, lost to a tough South Carolina team. That kind of knocked them down a little bit, but they still have hope, right? They're in that ACC championship game. Hey, you win it, you get a bid in. So they have opportunity galore in front of them, but not one of their better years, but I have them at 18.
My number 17 team is Iowa State. Iowa State, you know, here's another team out of the Big 12. We go back several weeks. We thought really looking good. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, 3-4 weeks back, they kind of got off on the wrong exit and played at the wrong exit. And they stayed on that for a couple weeks. Then they got back on track, had a really nice win against Kansas State to seal their way into the championship game. So we'll see what happens from there. 10-2 as well. Good season.
Yeah, so I have BYU at number 17. I have them below Iowa State just because Iowa State is representing the Big 12 in this championship game. BYU at the beginning of the season was probably the best team in the Big 12, and they stumbled their toe and they went 10-2. So I have them at my number 17 slot.
My number 16 team is Clemson. And as you mentioned earlier, Clemson's in the ACC championship game. So Clemson could sneak into the top 12 very easily by winning the ACC, and they could win the ACC. Mm-hmm. They're not that big of an underdog in my opinion. The problem for Clemson, as you said, they kind of put themselves behind the 8 ball and needed Miami to lose. Fortunately, Santa came early for them. But
Right.
you know, I got Clemson at number 16. They're not done.
Right. My 16's Iowa State, right? This team is ahead of BYU. They're in that championship game. The beginning of the season, they were up there with BYU, undefeated, and then they dumped 2 games there. 10-2 is a good record. All the opportunity in the world. If they win this Big 12, it gets them in the playoffs. So the opportunity's there. I have them at 16.
At number 15, I have South Carolina, 9-3. Here's one of those teams in the SEC grinder that, you know, they kind of got off to a wrong start, but down the stretch they played incredible. They are a hot team and they are a dangerous team that you definitely do not want to see when you need to win a game. So I got South Carolina at number 15, really big win over Clemson to keep their slim hopes alive. We'll see where they go, but I got them at number 15.
Yeah. My 15's Ole Miss as well. That margin for error in this SEC is up and down. You can win one game and you can lose to the next team. You know, they have great wins against Georgia, you know, and then they lose other games there. Being 9-3, I put them as one of the lower SEC schools right now. But hey, that Ole Miss is a good team.
Yeah,
I got to put them at 15.
Yeah, now we get into the fun part of it. In the 14 through 12, there's 3 teams there that I really had a hard time splitting the hairs on. But, you know, as it sits right now, I put Ole Miss at number 14. They're 9-3. They probably could go up higher, but I've got them at 14. They got the big win over Georgia. And they smacked South Carolina in a way no one else has beat South Carolina this year. So Ole Miss has the wins, but a loss to Kentucky at 4-8 really hurts you bad.
Yeah.
That's kind of why they ended up at 14 for me. But 9-3 in the SEC is still pretty darn good.
Yeah, my 14, this team just dropped a lot in the polls for me. Miami lost their second game to Syracuse. They should have beat that team. They controlled their own destiny. Yeah. They look like the best team in the ACC. Yeah. What a bad loss for them. Their defense struggles to stop anybody, and they can't keep coming back from a large deficit to win games, and it's biting them in the butts, and they're losing games. I got them on the outside struggling. They're the second team out as far as these playoffs are concerned. They're on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I got Miami at 13. And, you know, the reason I got them there is that defense of theirs. It's kind of hard with that defense to put them over Alabama and Ole Miss both, right? Mm-hmm. You know, Miami was certainly, to me, the best team in the ACC until this game here. They had it. They were up 21-0.
Yeah.
And here comes the defense in sheer form and let Syracuse come back into this game and knock them around. And so Miami's sitting at number 13, and the way I see it, they have no opportunity. They really don't. I don't see how they can get in because the teams they're tied with, none of them play.
Right.
So their work is done.
Yeah.
And 10-2 in the ACC, still not a bad season, but I just think it's going to leave you short. Maybe the committee sees it differently than we do, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah, so my 13, South Carolina, they're 9-3, and they're probably the hottest team in college football right now. You don't want to play this team, but I can't put them any higher based on the Alabamas ahead of them and some of the other schools, but what a great team. Slim chance of making it in. They probably have none because, like you said, they're done playing, so they don't have an opportunity to put more out there for you to see. But what a great team nonetheless.
Right. Now we get into the playoffs, and this could change. And the only way this can change is if the committee sees the teams differently than we do.
Yeah.
But Alabama is number 12 for me right now. I'm going to go ahead and do it for them, because we know they're in love with them and they wanted to do it anyway. So I'll kind of give them the okay. 9-3. Bama has a big win over Georgia. Bama beat South Carolina as well. They did just enough to hang around and give themselves a chance. Reluctantly, I put them in, but we'll see. I think they're kind of in.
Mm-hmm. Right. So my number 12's Arizona State, one of the hottest teams right now, along with South Carolina. They're at the top of the Big 12 right now. They control their own destiny. They could be one of those bye teams. They could be fighting for the third seed in this tournament right now. They're playing hot right now. So I got Arizona at my 12 into the playoffs.
I have Arizona State sitting at the 11th seed for many of the reasons you said. They are hot. They have ran through the big dogs in the Big 12, 3 of them here in the last 3 weeks. Took care of the rival pretty easily. And, you know, they got the game with Iowa State. I think they win it, but we'll see. I got them at number 11 right now.
Mm-hmm. What an amazing story. They weren't even projected to they were last in the Big 12. So anyway, my number 11 is Alabama, right? 9-3 Jekyll and Hyde team right here. They beat anyone in the country and they lose to anyone in the country. You know, you got Vanderbilt they lost to. I mean, it's a struggle putting them in there. One game they look outstanding and the next they can't move the ball, right? So I got them at my number 11 spot.
Mm-hmm. Well, my number 10 is Indiana, sitting at 11-1, and just in case you didn't know who they were, they decided to remind you by beating Purdue 66-0. And I get it's Purdue, okay? So don't start yelling at the screen. I get it's Purdue, but I gave you a stat of it's less than 3% of teams that get shut out. They shut them out and beat them 66-0. How many teams score 66 points, folks? You know, quit doubting Indiana. I know they have a softer schedule, but this is a Cinderella team, and you know, I don't think you really want to see them because they have nothing. They're playing with house money.
Yeah, exactly. My number 10 team is Boise State. They're 11-1. What a great team here. They're in a chance of getting one of these byes of being one of the top 4 teams for winning the Mountain West, which right now is better than the other Power 5 or Power 4 teams, however you want to look at it. I think they deserve where they're at. They're 11-1. Their only loss was to Oregon by 3 points. That's a great loss for Boise State right there. So I got to put them at my 10 spot.
Right. Well, at number 9, I have the Volunteers of Tennessee. The Volunteers are the 3rd best team by record in the SEC. They are 10-2. They beat Alabama. You know, they took care of the Vanderbilt, which is scrappy. Vanderbilt was up 17-0 on them. Tennessee, all Tennessee did was come back and win by, I think, 13 or 14. So Tennessee's 10-2. I got them there at the number 9 spot.
Yep. So my number 9 is Indiana, like you spoke. They're 11-1, and they beat everyone that's in front of them except for Ohio State. And when I say beat everyone, they beat them by over 30 points. The margin of victory was crazy. No other team out there is doing that. You know, hey, you can say soft what you want, but there's teams out there. Ohio State loses to Michigan. Alabama loses to Vanderbilt. There's teams out there losing to teams that they shouldn't. Hey, just keep winning. That's what you need to do to stay in there. I got them in the playoffs right now.
And one more thing on what you just said to shut people up. Alabama got beat by Oklahoma 24-3.
That's right.
So, enough. Okay, so my number 8 team is Ohio State at 10-2. And this is a team that had everything to play for last week and somehow ended up giving it away. And, you know, not to take away from what Michigan did, because I don't like to be that guy that poo-poos on a team winning. Ohio State knew what they needed to do. They failed. I put them at number 8. This is a team that if you get their best, they can beat anybody. But as we've seen here, just like Jekyll and Hyde, Alabama, apparently Ohio State can lose to anybody as well.
Right? Yeah. So my number 8 team is SMU right now. What a great season. 11-1, new conference, leading the ACC right now. SMU's a good team. I got to put them at number 8, 11-1.
Outstanding team. My number 7 team is Penn State. They're 11-1, and as you mentioned, their only loss is to the Buckeyes. So it's kind of hard to beat up on this team. They have played much better since that loss to Ohio State as well. So, you know, they're in the Big Ten championship game, and they have a shot. This isn't going to be a blowout. They have a legitimate chance. So I got Penn State at 7.
Yeah. My number 7 team is Ohio State, 10-2, and like you said, there's no question this team roster is probably one of the best in college football, but they don't bring their A game, they can get beat, but if they bring their A game, they can beat any team in the country. So I got to put them at 7 with this loss to Michigan. They got to drop down a little bit. 7 seems like the right spot for me.
Number 6, I have the Bulldogs of Georgia. They're 10-2. We've talked about this team at length. They have had the hardest schedule of anyone in college football, we feel. I think the stats would back that up. They've got some great wins. They destroyed Texas earlier in the year, which is, consensus number 2 right now. But, they have a couple losses to teams with 3 losses each. So they've proven that they can slip up as well. So Georgia would be my number 6. We'll see what happens in this SEC championship game.
Right. My number 6 is Tennessee. They're looking great. I mean, big wins for them with Alabama. They beat Alabama by a touchdown, 10-2. They're playing pretty good ball. I have them at my number 6.
My number 5 is Notre Dame. And it's obvious why they're number 5. As I said, my thing reflects the seedings. Notre Dame can't be higher than that. Otherwise, they'd be higher than that. They're 11-1. They've been smacking everybody around other than their loss to, I get it, it's Northern Illinois. But I'll tell you what, the way they played, you'd never guess that happened.
Right.
And they did not let that game crush them like so many other teams have let a loss crush them. And so Notre Dame belongs where they are. They've beaten some good teams along the way. And as I said last week, those of you who are pointing out they ain't very good, I'll wait on your response after they beat you in the playoffs.
My number 5's Georgia, the Bulldogs here, right? What a crazy game we just witnessed here against Georgia Tech. I mean, that could have went where they lost, and now we're changing this whole thing out. But right now, strength of schedule, big victories. They beat up Texas. Yeah. They're going to get another crack at them to show that they're probably the best team in the SEC. Who knows? We're going to find out next weekend. I have them at my 5 just because the potential of them beating you is good. They can beat anyone in college football right now, but I have them at my 5.
Yep, not a question on what you just said. Number 4, I got Boise State because the likelihood of them winning the Mountain West is high. They also, I feel, would rank higher than Arizona State as the champion, being 11-1. And so we give Boise State a lot of credit. As you mentioned earlier, a 3-point loss to Oregon. Oregon's the number 1 team in the country, folks, and they gave them a run for their money. And Boise State has just done everything they needed to do to be where they're at. They're that team so many people in the country root for because they're the small guy. Boise State's number 4 right now because of the strength of winning the Mountain West.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great story right there. My number 4 is Notre Dame. Probably the hottest team. They said after that loss to Illinois, they just focus so hard right now. They're beating everybody up, 11-1. I got them at 4. Unfortunately, they can't be 4 when they get to the seedings because they're an independent, so they don't get that automatic bye. Best chance is the number 5 seed, but Notre Dame's a hot team right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3 is another great story, SMU. A team nobody thought would be 11-1. You say what you want, they play in the ACC. We keep hearing people talk about easy schedules. They play in a Power 4 conference. This isn't the MAC. SMU is a good football team. They're 11-1. I feel they are cemented into the playoffs even if they lose. So I'm putting 11-1 SMU at the number 3 spot.
Yeah. My number 3 is going to be Penn State. This team only lost to Ohio State, just keeps winning. I think they're one of the better teams right now. Defense is going to keep them in games, and their offense is going to do just enough to win games. They're a scrappy team. They got Oregon in this championship game. They could win that game and end up getting the 2 seed or the number 1 seed based on how things work out. Penn State's got a lot of opportunity ahead of them.
Yeah. My number 2 seed is probably consensus with most people right now. It's Texas. Yeah, it's 11-1. They have the bad loss to Georgia, which, okay, 11-1 in the SEC. I don't care how you try to slice it. They're in the SEC. All you people talk about is how great that conference is, and now we hear people trying to say they don't play anybody. You can't have it both ways, fools. They are the best team in your conference. Get over it. They just are. And we'll see what happens when they play Georgia. 11-1's 11-1. Texas is number 2.
Right. Texas is my number 2 team, and hey, this last game they played against A&M, they pretty much ran them down on the field on them. Never let A&M get into the game, and A&M's a good team.
Yes, they are.
So I think Texas is the best team in the SEC. They are my number 2 seed, and we're going to see how it works out when they play Georgia. Maybe they beat Georgia this time around, and that'll hush everyone because Texas is a good team. They got one of the best defenses out there, and they got a good offense too. So this is all around good team.
Very tough to beat good teams twice. Very tough. And number 1, who's that going to be? Oregon.
Kent.
Oh, yes.
Kent
Oregon.
State.
Kent State, yes. Yes, well, they have a nice round number in their win column. But Oregon, 12-0. Do we have to say any more?
No.
They beat Ohio State. They destroyed Illinois, changed Illinois' season, and beat Boise State, which I have as the number 4 seed. So, I mean, they beat 2 teams in the top 10. So, they're easily the number 1 team in the country as it sits right now. Anything can happen when we get into this playoff, so we'll just wait and see.
Right. Arguably the best team right now playing. They're undefeated. No one can argue the fact that they're not deserving of one. They're the best team, and hey, we'll see what happens down the road here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is hard to run the table, like you said, go undefeated, but they look great. So that's our top 25. We want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. That's really easy to do. Leave a comment. Tell us your best team, who you think's going to win the title this year. What a fun season. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Peace.